justice, temperance, wisdom, courage. Applying ancient philosophy to modern times, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic, a podcast where we examine ancient philosophy and apply at least the good bits to modern life. And Stoicism is full of good bits. Today we'll look at Stoic Friendship. Now, I've heard people interviewed. There's a podcast that I like to listen to called The Art of Manliness, for example. And I heard an interview with a philosopher who talked about Stoicism. And basically said that if you follow Stoicism to its core, you would just sit at home and stare at your belly button. That does not sound like the kind of life many of us would wish to lead. But when you read the Stoics themselves, they were emperors, they were out on the street teaching, or they were active people. They were fighting the rise of Julius Caesar, for example. So this doesn't sound like navel-gazing to me. And part of living in the world is interacting with people. And you can check out some of the great work on the website How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. He talks about some of the ancient Stoic views of how we fit into the world, this idea of cosmopolitanism, meaning that we are a citizen of the cosmos and not a citizen of one town, one village, one country, but a citizen of the world or a citizen of the universe. And if we see each other that way, we're all friends, we're all family. And that's how the Stoics encouraged us to view ourselves, as one big friendly family. But in the readings today, we'll hear from Epictetus. Epictetus, always the kind of the hardcore guy. And Seneca, I included a reading from him this week, even though it is Epictetus month. Epictetus often has some... here's how I think of it. Epictetus often tells you how you should be, but I often interpret his phraseology as, first of all, like I've said before, he lived a hard life, and he takes a hard stand on this philosophy, which is fun, which is good. I think of what Epictetus says as, here's what the sage would do, the perfect Stoic. And I am not the perfect Stoic. I look at something like Seneca says, and he often says things more like, here's how your average guy is going to apply this to his life. Here's how you live it as much as you can. He also speaks in terms of what the sage would do, the perfect Stoic. But we have to have this mind, this view of the perfect Stoic. Just like Christianity has Christ, right? Where there's this perfect being that you're trying to emulate, but you will always fall short. Stoicism has the sage, this perfect Stoic that you're trying to emulate, though deep down you know you will never be a sage. But why do we have the sage? Why do we put this person on a pedestal, this imaginary person in this case, on a pedestal that we can't ever quite match up to? And I think the reason is we don't want to try to be like someone who's imperfect, because then we'll let our own imperfections slip by and we won't try to correct them. We don't want to beat ourselves up and say, oh, I'm bad, I'm a horrible person, I'm a sinner, or whatever. But we do want to say, the perfect person would have done this, I did this, I can do better. If, however, our role model is someone who themselves is not necessarily perfect, at least when it comes to this philosophy, we might say, well, they do this. And it's good to have role models, by the way, that are real and imperfect. But in our minds, we want to know what the perfection of this philosophy would look like. And so when we don't live up to that perfection, which we never will, we can say, okay, here's how I can inch towards that perfection. So that's kind of where Epictetus often comes from, telling us the hardcore stance that a perfect sage might adopt. But he acknowledges in a lot of his writings, no one's living up to this. So we're going to hear from Epictetus and from Seneca. and they're going to talk a little bit about friendship. I just picked 3 readings, and we'll hear what they have to say. And I want to point out before we jump into that, I'd love to hear from the listeners. One thing I thought about doing is anyone who's interested can get on your phone or a microphone somewhere, say your name, record your name, and say why you like Stoicism, why you practice Stoicism. Just a little clip. And then email it to me at sundaystoic@gmail.com. And I'll put a few of those together in some of the episodes in the future. Also, on another note, I wanted to point out that I have created a Sunday Stoic YouTube channel. I post YouTube links from other Stoics that I think are helpful on there, but also I am posting all of the current episodes to YouTube as well, so you could listen to them there. I think in the future I'm going to try to keep every episode down to 15 minutes or less, because if I post to YouTube and it's over 15 minutes, YouTube splits it up into 2 different videos, and that's really annoying. So, without further ado, let's hear from Epictetus and Seneca. The Discourses of Epictetus, Book 3, Chapter 16. Slightly paraphrased. If a man has frequent interactions with others, either for talk or drinking together, or generally for social purposes, he will either become like them or change them to be like himself. For if a man places a piece of quenched charcoal close to a piece that is burning, either the quenched charcoal will put out the other, or the burning charcoal will light that which is quenched. Since then the danger is so great, we must cautiously enter into such relationships with those who do not study philosophy, and remember that it is impossible that a man can keep company with one who is covered with soot without becoming dirty himself. For what will you do if a man speaks about gladiators, about horses, about athletes, or what is worse, about men? Such a person is bad, so and so is good. This was well done, this was badly done. The Discourses of Epictetus, Chapter 2, number 22. But if you hear that these men in very truth believe the good lie only in the region of the will, and in dealing rightly with impressions, you need trouble yourself no more as to whether a man is son or father, whether they are brothers or have been familiar companions for years. I say, if you grasp this one fact and no more, you may pronounce with confidence that they are friends, as you may that they are faithful and just. For where else is friendship but where faith and honor are, where men give and take what is good, and nothing else? Moral Letters to Lucilius by Seneca. Letter 9 on Philosophy and Friendship, paragraph 10. For what purpose, then, do I make a man my friend? In order to have someone for whom I may die, whom I may follow into exile, against whose death I may stake my own life and pay the pledge too. The friendship which you portray is a bargain and not a friendship. It regards convenience only, and looks to the result. So what do you think about that? Epictetus has 2 different readings here. In one, he says you have to be careful when hanging out with your old friends. If you are a Stoic, you need to watch who you hang out with, because you will easily fall back into the habits of friendships. There are other readings like this in Stoicism as well. They will rub off on you, or you will rub off on them. It could go either way. Either they will try to emulate you because they see how happy and content you are with life, or you will start being more like them and doing horrible things like, drinking too much, or gossiping about sports, or even worse, about people and what they're up to, and whether what they're doing is good or bad, and all these things that are out of your power to control and you should not worry about. So that one phrase in there sounds very, very, snooty, like, oh dear. you can't hang out with those people, you'll get dirty. But what he's saying is, we influence each other. We are social beings, and if we can't help but be more like those people that we hang out with. So we may have to decide to move on and meet with new friends. And when it comes to new friends, he has other advice. In the second reading, he says, if you meet people who are pursuing philosophy, who are trying to make, as he puts it, his big things are controlling impressions, for example, and your will. If you meet people who believe in that, you already know that they're good people and they can be your friends. I would recommend vetting them a little bit more thoroughly. But if you meet others who are pursuing similar philosophical goals as you, then there's a lot of high likelihood that they could be your friends, and they already are your friends, really, according to Epictetus. Now, Seneca, little less hardcore of a stand, and I took a snippet from a reading of his where he's talking about friendship, and he mentions Epicurus and the Epicureans, and says that their view of friendship is, I need to have a friend so that if I'm sick, someone can take care of me. And a lot of people think this way, right? Who's going to take care of me? I need a friend to take care of me. And Seneca says, no, that is not the way this works. As a Stoic, you don't look for friends so you have someone to take care of you. You look for friends so you can display virtue by taking care of them, by helping them, by following them into exile, and all these sorts of things. So I think of it in modern terms. You make friends so you can help them move. Have you ever had to help a friend move? You must really think of them as a friend if you're willing to work all day packing their crap in boxes and hauling it off to a new apartment or something. So we shouldn't think of friends as utilitarian means to an end. They're here to help us. No, we're here to help them. And we get to practice virtue by doing that. Every day of your life is a way to practice virtue. So, what have we learned today? Well, we know that there's a Stoic sage that you can picture in your mind that you're trying to emulate. You will never be as good as that sage, but if we have lower expectations for ourselves, we will not get as far as we could than if we have high expectations for ourselves. We've learned that we got to be careful who we hang out with, because either we will influence them, which if that's the case, maybe we should go for it. But they might influence us and undo all the training we've put in to our life philosophy. We've also seen that philosophers might make good friends. I've yet to test this hypothesis myself. And that we should be careful not to use our friends, but we should be there for our friends. We are a citizen of the cosmos. We are blood brothers and sisters with everyone on this planet. Every being on this planet, and we should start living that way. So, email me, sundaystoic@gmail.com. Check out the YouTube channel. I have posts on there by Massimo Pigliucci and others. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but check out the Stoic Metal podcast from a few weeks ago. Scott interviewed Massimo Pigliucci. He's one of the folks that I really watched online on YouTube and got into Stoicism after a brief introduction with Marcus Aurelius and a few other books. I always like seeing something on video and seeing him explain Stoicism online, and then also hearing it on this podcast was very, very helpful. So until then, Carpe Diem.